Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson. I'm back after a vacation, being gone for several weeks, and we have returned with a bang because we have one of our best guests ever here on the show. Today's guest is a woman who is a widely respected local leader, and I'm really excited to hear that she's taking up a new banner of leadership right here in Ponchatoula. She is going to lead the charge at Ponchatoula Junior High School. We have with us today the new principal of the junior high, Dr. Heloise Hayden. Dr. Hayden, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for coming on here today. Why don't we begin with you just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Heloise Hayden. I grew up in Ponchatoula, so I'm a hometown girl. I'm really excited to be returning to my community. I've always had great pride in being from Ponchatoula, so no better place to be. I have two daughters. They are 20 and 24, and my oldest daughter is actually going to be teaching at DC Reeves this year, so I'm really excited.
Oh, that's so cool. She's followed in your footsteps. That's really neat.
Except for third grade. So
yeah. Oh, wow. So she's going to have her hands full as somebody with a first grader at home and a preschooler. I know those little ones are often harder to manage than the teenagers. That's kind of neat because I remember when my senior year in high school, I believe was your first year teaching. Your brother Wes, great buddy. He was, one of the coolest guys in the year ahead of me in school. And it was a big deal when you hit the campus. Everybody was like, yeah, who's that tall blonde walking down the hall? Oh, that's the young new teacher. And now your daughter's going through that. Have you given her any advice or, what have you told her about what to expect?
Well, just don't take anything personally. Love the kids. Be there for the kids. She has her classroom ready. It's beautiful. I'm super proud of her. So
I bet, as you should be. Well, speaking of advice from great educators, we've got a comment already from Mary Beth Crevetto, your predecessor. Now, this is impressive because I happen to know Mary Beth and Kevin, her husband, are taking it easy on the lake up there in Arkansas. So the fact that she's taken the time to watch Ponchatoula Live is really impressive. But she says, "Hey, Dr. Wheezy."
I love Mary Beth, and she gave me that nickname when we were teaching together at Ponchatoula High School, Wheezy. And at first, I was a little turned off by it, but then I thought she thinks enough, and it caught on. So other people call me Wheezy now, and I love her. We taught together for many years, and actually, when she became a leader at the school, she started giving me opportunities to be a teacher leader. So she really believed in me and started me with those opportunities. So it's really cool that I get to follow in her footsteps at Ponchatoula Junior High.
Well, it's so cool to hear about that connection. She's absolutely one of my favorite people in the world. She was my teacher at Ponchatoula High. Her husband is the leader of our Sunday school class. Her son worked for me for 4 or 5 years. I just, there's no better family in town than the Crevettos. And she has done so well. She is now entering a well-deserved retirement, following Kevin into that realm. But when they say you have big shoes to fill, boy, do you. I mean, she is something. But, something tells me you're up to the task. I happen to be a big baseball fan. And, earlier this year, I took my boys to Yankee Stadium, and I've been rooting for the Yankees my whole life. And sometimes you can have, a Hall of Famer like Joe DiMaggio, and the next person in line is Mickey Mantle, right? So that's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I think we have going at the junior high as we go from Miss Crevetto to you, because you're both kind of legendary local homegrown educators. She was born on the wrong side of the creek. We don't hold it against her anymore. But that's really neat. You have another comment coming in here from your sweet mom, Miss Donna, and she says she's a proud mama here, and she's sending you love. Miss Donna, how are you? I hadn't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing well. Your mom's a lady who always greets me and everybody, with a smile. She's just, like you. She's got that big, beautiful smile. Tell us, if you wouldn't mind, Eloise, what was it like growing up with her as your mama? And just tell us a little bit about your childhood. What was that like?
I have wonderful parents, John and Donna Hayden.
Right.
And my dad actually worked many years at Elmer's Candy
That's
Company
right
in town.
I had forgotten that.
And my mom was a paraprofessional in the school system. So she worked at Perrin for many years, and then she finished her career at Tucker. And so many generations in Ponchatoula and her family have attended, and it's really neat that she went to school at the junior high. My grandmother went to school. It wasn't the junior high then, but it's really a privilege to be there. But I had wonderful parents, super loving, and they really taught me and my brother to believe in ourselves, and to the point where we just thought we could conquer the world. So super supportive. I remember.
Well, and here you are doing it. You know, I mean, you're at the pinnacle of education. You got your doctorate. You've been a principal. You know, the superintendents trust you with, well, you know, really a marquee school. I mean, you mentioned the great old building and your parents going to school there. I mean, to me, that is the crown jewel of the Louisiana, or excuse me, at least Tangipahoa educational system. It's what, 3 stories tall, big columns. They just don't build schools like that anymore. And I'm not aware of any other that have the majesty. Is that something that you hear a lot as you transition into school there? Kind of war stories from people that went to school there. I mean, it seems to me people really care a lot about that building in particular, that campus, with the history and its grandeur. Is that kind of what it's been like? Or
it has been, and everyone has their stories and they want to share what that building means to them. I know when I went to school there, it was the junior high, and actually the building that we had our classes in burned down. But every once in a while, we got to go in that auditorium, and it was such a big deal for us. So even when Ms. Crevetto and I walked around the campus, just going back into that auditorium was so special and meaningful for me. So it's really a privilege and an honor to be the principal there, and I'm super excited. Just being in that building, it's just a different feeling to drive up to that building every day.
That's so cool. You know, people take notice that you have that local appreciation. Miss Rosemary Gardner's on here, and she says, congratulations on your new job. And she says another PHS alumnus is making Ponchi proud. So thank you, Rosemary, for sharing that. And that's kind of neat. I mean, you're the first person, I assume, that went there at the junior high level to now be leading there, right? I mean, we've certainly had principals before that went to high school there, but you're the first one that went through in the junior high era, so that's really cool. My dad always brags, and this is one of these things you can only brag about after the statute of limitation runs. But he and his best friend Carl Cleveland, you mentioned a fire. They started a fire in the chemistry lab one time. You know, negligence, I think, not intentionally, but luckily they didn't burn down the whole school. But it sounds like they came close back in the 50s or 60s. So yeah, there's just tons of history there, and it's really neat for our community to see a local superstar who's gone off and excelled, leading other schools and other communities. You know, to come back here. That's really neat. You mentioned your brother. Okay, you mentioned talking about your parents. They raised you in this loving community to inspire you guys to go conquer the world, and you're doing it in education. But your brother's been incredibly successful too. Tell us about the relationship y'all had coming up, and you know what that was like. Because I happen to know him to be such a nice guy. You know, high school boys can be kind of rough on each other. The upperclassmen aren't always nice to the lower classmen, but he was really good to us when we were in school. I always looked up to Wes. You know, physically, he's much taller than I, as you are, but also, you know, in general. Tell us about him and the relationship you share.
We are close, and he has my only little nephew. He is 6 years old and just a doll. And so I enjoy that relationship with my brother very much so. So we have a very close family. Even our family who is out of state, we're still very close and stay in touch. So my brother and I are very close. And matter of fact, he's the one that was like, you have to go on Parker's show. So
that's great. Now, does he still live around here? I haven't seen him in a while.
He lives in Watson.
Watson. Okay, cool. So I have a 6-year-old too. So I'm sure we'll be seeing each other at some ballpark or event or something, I'm sure. Several more people are commenting on here. Susan Covington says she looks forward to working under you again. So awesome. That's neat. And Raymond Starkey says they're going to miss you out in La Ranja. Let's talk about.
I'm going to miss them too. And it was, it was a difficult decision. I loved the LaRonda community, but as you get close to the end of your career, you start thinking about what impact and what legacy you want to have and leave. And really returning to my hometown and finishing out my career here was very important to me. Also with my daughter beginning her teaching career.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that, to be right across town from her. And but I'm sure that was a tough decision, because LaRonda is a special community. My family's had a farm out there. My dad bought a cattle farm there when we were young. And we spent a lot of weekends and time out there. Lived there in high school for a bit while we remodeled our house. And I'm sure you had a hard time leaving behind that community. There's really good people. More folks are chiming in here. Miss Faye Ivaniski. Miss Faye, good to see you again. You've always been one of our best viewers, most loyal viewers. She says to you, Dr. Hayden, good luck in the new school year. And she knows the community will support you. And she sends congratulations. Miss Faye, thank you for that. We've got Charlene, is it Wan? Forgive me for mispronouncing your name, whichever way I said it wrong, one or both. But she says they're so excited to welcome you, Captain Heloise, and that it's great having you take the helm of the pirate ship. I like that. I often forget that the junior high is not the wave, it's the pirates, right? So that's good to know. Another great educator, Dr. Danny Williams, to Dr. Hayden, says congratulations. Like you, he was a principal here in town, and certainly one of my mentors and heroes. He was on our podcast years ago, one of the finest men in Ponchatoula. And somebody who, like your daughter, is new to the realm of education. Coach Mark Verbois is going into his second year at PHS. And he's commenting here that he knows many in the community are excited to see Dr. Hayden come home to lead the junior high school, and he sends you congratulations. So, folks, if you're just tuning in, if you got here a little late, we are here with Dr. Heloise Hayden, the new principal of the junior high. And she's been telling us a little bit about the pride she has in coming back to her home community where she started to finish up her career and lead the junior high at the time in life when her daughter is starting her brand new teaching career. And this has really been a neat story. So we mentioned your family and that aspect of childhood, but why don't you give us a little glimpse of what growing up in Ponchatoula was like for you? Because, we've had so many people on this show, and some of us boys were in the ditches, chasing tadpoles and riding BMX bikes through the mud. I wonder kind of what it was like for you if you were into something different. So tell us, what was childhood like for you in Ponchatoula when you were a kid?
Well, I grew up on the west side of Ponchatoula, and I remember when the main street was just a 2-lane. I remember riding the bus, being on the bus, and they were expanding the road, and it was just so shocking and exciting. So just my time, even at Tucker, like there's so many things, so many great educators that I came up under, great principals that I've worked for. So, I've always taken great pride in being from Ponchatoula. I truly believe that we were the greatest. I still believe that. And so it's exciting. But even during my time at Southeastern, while I worked there, that there was always at the graduation some Ponchatoula student who was a President's Award winner, or they were singing or giving a speech or played in the band. So always leaders in those graduation ceremonies, and it just instilled that pride. So I look forward to continuing in that excellence attitude. And
that's neat. Well, I couldn't have thought of somebody better to take over the reins there to continue that standard of excellence. When you think back, you mentioned all the great educators that you came up under. Some as principals you work for, some as teachers. Who comes to mind from the days when you were a student, whether it was a teacher, a coach, principal? Who do you remember really making an impact on you when you were a youngster on the educational side of things?
Well, many.
Yeah.
But I will say one that's kind of a cool story right now is that my second grade teacher, she's going to kill me for saying this, but now she's going to be the principal at Tucker. So Lisa Rayford, she was my second grade teacher.
So cool. Oh, wow.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and speaking of the Rayford family, you're sitting in the Rayford room. That's what our law firm named that room, because this building was Mr. Junior Rayford's home, and John Rayford and his family. And so when we bought it, we named that big conference room, you're in the Rayford room. What a great family that is. We had Kevin Rayford here on the show a while back, and he's running for assessor. He'll make a great assessor for our parish. But that's really neat. So you guys are taking over as principals here in Ponchatoula at the same time. That's really a neat story. Well, that's cool. That's cool. What activities were you into as a student?
I played basketball, so I actually played in the gym at the junior high. So
that's
kind of cool to be there. And yesterday I went and watched.
Is that back when they had the sides? Did it where you could run the stadiums upstairs and all?
Yes, we did run the stadiums where they had the second floor. So it's really neat to be back in that gym.
I bet. Folks, if you don't know that gym well, pick up a copy of the Pistol Pete movie, The Pistol, and it was filmed there, and it's just really special. It's such a great old building. My dad was in that movie. He played one of the referees along with Mr. Buddy Pugh, who played the other referee, and we've watched it many times. But what a great building. I want to share a few more comments because a few more have come in since then. Our city councilman, who I believe is the councilman for the district that includes the junior high campus, Virgil Sandifer. I might be wrong about that. I'm no geographer, but he says congratulations. Councilman Sandifer, thank you for watching the show and for chiming in. Tabitha Majesty says congrats and yay. She's sending a lot of love your way. And Papa Square, Mr. James Square, one of the great guests of this show and a junior high legend, local educator, says that the junior high is a great place to be, and welcome aboard. Papa Square, thank you for chiming in, and it was a pleasure to do your interview. You were one of my favorite guests we ever had. He is a good example of the kind of talent that you are able to recruit to Ponchatoula that maybe you couldn't get elsewhere at other schools. As I recall, and please correct me if I'm wrong or otherwise, Papa Square was either retired or, comfy and happy elsewhere. And Mary Beth, Miss Crevetto, pulled him out of retirement into the junior high. And those two worked as a tandem, and he was just great. But am I right there? I mean, that's an example of you guys have a draw where you can kind of get really big time talent, and so are you planning, what are your plans in terms of molding the faculty in your image? You're fortunate enough to inherit a great faculty, but I'm sure there's turnover. You need new people. What are your thoughts on that as an incoming principal?
It's been really exciting. I believe I've hired 4 people this week, and some exceptional talent. So I'm super excited about the opportunity to work with them. And I know I was battling Livingston Parish for one teacher in particular, so we won out. So I'm super excited about that. And it is great to have that draw. And so my background, I spent 11 years at Southeastern as a teacher educator. So I have a lot of connections. Even some of my former students already teach there. So that was pretty exciting.
So did this come after you were, I presume it had to be after you taught at PHS, right?
It was. And actually my first site where I did my teaching was at the junior high. So we were located in a cottage, and I taught for Southeastern, and then we would go over and do our practice teaching with the teachers at the junior high. So I was on their campus for several years.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got here career path wise and educationally. So I assume, you seemed super young when you started teaching at PHS when I was there. I mean, you were our buddy's big sister. You couldn't have been that old. So I'm assuming you didn't go get your PhD first and then start teaching. Did you go to teach at PHS? I mean, straight out of college, or kind of give us an idea for the trajectory?
I just turned 21.
Okay, wow, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, okay. And so then I taught for several years, and then I worked on my master's degree, and then I had an opportunity to go to Southeastern to teach teachers math, how to teach math. And while I was there, I did earn my doctorate in educational leadership. And so I
And that's when you
returned
get
to,
this nickname that's popping up here in one of the comments, Dr. Wheezy. We talked about earlier. Took a little warming up today. Now, who coined that nickname first? Was that a Crevetto creation, or did somebody else come up with that first?
well, actually, when we taught together at the high school, she used to call me Wheezy. And so now that I finished my doctorate, she has added the Dr. Wheezy. So, yes.
I love it. I love it.
So I meet people and they're like, "Oh, you're Dr. Wheezy."
Oh yeah. Then you hear that name, you don't forget it. So that's
Right.
yeah. Sean McWater is commenting here, deservedly so on. So you're getting a lot more support here. I'm just trying, folks. I'm doing my best to bring comments up as they come in, but as you can see, sometimes I don't get them too quickly. So thank you for your patience with that. For folks that are tuning in a little later, we're here with Dr. Heloise Hayden, Dr. Wheezy to some. She is the new principal at the junior high, and so you get out of school at 21, you go straight into teaching. You earn your master's, you go to Southeastern. I think you said you were there 11 years, right?
I was. Yes.
Eventually, you'll earn your doctorate along the way. Where do you go next from Southeastern?
So after my time at Southeastern, I went to Livingston Parish. I spent a year as a professional development coordinator, and I worked with different high schools in the area to support the principals and curriculum. And
Which
so
schools
then,
did you work out there? I asked because my wife works in pupil appraisal in Livingston, and she hops from school to school. So
actually,
curious.
your wife was at one of the schools I was at.
Small world.
She was. We did work together. And I loved the people of Livingston were absolutely fabulous. But after a year of supporting principals, I thought, well, why not do the thing myself? So that's when I applied and became principal of LaRonja Middle School.
Oh, cool. So Kenny's chiming in to say congratulations, Decro. Kenny, thank you for that. LaRonja Middle School, you get the nod as a principal. What were the challenges? I mean, I think it's one thing, to teach, to advise, but when you sit in that big chair and the decisions are yours and pressure's coming from all directions, I would imagine it's a different animal. What are your recollections about what that experience was?
I had no clue. I had no clue how challenging it would be. I really didn't.
Really?
So,
Who was the first person you called when you really needed to dig deep for advice?
well, I had wonderful friends who were principals. So Miss Crevetto, Miss Melissa Ryan, she was the principal at Vineyard. Amber Gardner was principal at Tucker.
Oh yeah, Amber's great. Yeah.
I called Dr. Moles often, helped with discipline. So they were wonderful resources for me that first year. But that was the year we had the cyber attack. So when I started, I had no email, no internet. And then we finished that year with COVID. So every year has been something major. So hopefully this year will kind of be a smooth year.
Holy moly. Yeah. Wow. So you started like the plague principalship.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really tough. Yikes. What are some lessons you've learned? I mean, I'm sure, much of the problems you encountered, you expected. Others, like, a pandemic, were just totally out of this world and unpredictable. But what are some lessons that you learned that maybe you would share with young educators? Your daughter comes to mind first, right? Like, as she enters this career from a teaching angle, what lesson might you share with her? New principals, you're now in your second run. I'm sure you're approaching this job with wisdom you didn't have when you got to LaRonja Middle. So what are some lessons you'd share with educators?
I would say always as an educator, you want to focus on the students, and they are individuals, and just really, the students that we have now, they've gone through things that we've never experienced before. And just with the pandemic, with different social media. And I think it's important just to listen and really make sure you're providing that safe environment, both physically, mentally, emotionally, for those students. Partnering with the community and with parents is very important. So I really hope to have, parental support and a partnership so that we can move forward together, because we have to work together. But I want Ponchatoula to have schools that they're truly proud of. And I want parents to feel comfortable sending their children to our school and knowing that we're going to take care of them, not just academically, but also their safety is important to us.
That's great to hear. And I happen to know that you have great partners in school safety, through the police department. Donald Burton's such a great guy. He's wonderful. Lots of other officers. In fact, I was out for a morning walk this week, and somebody had reported some kind of bad hombre, a suspect of sorts, near Kiwanis Park. And as I'm walking back from the park, within minutes, 3 officers are there separately. One drives by coming north to south on 7th. He's like, have you seen somebody that looks like this? Another guy in the next block. I mean, they respond fast. So it takes a village. School safety is on everybody's mind now more than ever. And we have to have principals that are proactive, thinking about that, and that are willing partners with law enforcement and everybody else that you need to be. So that's encouraging to hear that you focus on that. Why don't you, if you don't mind, walk us through a little bit of a day to day, because I think people would be surprised to hear all the work that goes into running a school, because you mentioned earlier, it's not even Friday. You've hired 4 people this week. By my count, that's 1 a day. And I would have thought coming into this, hey, it's summer. I'm thinking, does Dr. Hayden even have to go to campus, or does she have to not report yet? So tell people, if you would. I mean, I know a little more than most, because my wife is a 10-month employee, and she's always telling me about her dream of becoming a 9-month employee. But I think a lot of us outside the school system have this concept that, like, summer's out, school's out, teacher let the mules out, whatever the saying is, that you guys just, sit on the beach all summer, but you don't. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us specifically about your job as a principal and how much you work, but also, others. I think people might be surprised to hear that teachers and other support staff show up earlier than students. And, you guys don't just get to get off at 3 during the school year and take 3 months off every year. What's the deal with that?
Absolutely not. So, and principals are 12-month employees.
Oh,
so
wow.
we work year round. We do get a couple of weeks off, but one of the things that I love about being in Ponchatoula and just that commitment. Every day that I had to go to meetings today, I met with the new principal of LaRonja Middle School today and helped kind of transition and share things with her. So when I came back, though, I saw so many cars parked there and the commitment level. So teachers have been in and out. Every day that I've been there, I've seen different teachers, and they'll come by and speak to me, but they're working in their rooms preparing for your children to come in, and that commitment is very impressive. So
absolutely.
I think it's a beautiful thing. So teachers are there all summer long. They're still there. Some just finished summer school and they're still there. Mm-hmm. They're still showing up every day. So it really is an ongoing commitment. It doesn't end when you leave at 4:30. Yeah. But being principal, you wear many different hats and make lots of decisions. And hopefully, I hope that parents feel that I'm approachable and are able to contact me with any issues or suggestions, and really partner together with me and give me an opportunity to help your child if there are any issues.
So how should parents reach out to you? Is it an email or come to the office? Now would be a good opportunity for you to let folks know the best way to contact you.
Absolutely. So my email is the fastest, probably. And I would say if there is something serious, then definitely come by the office.
Okay.
But,
And I believe we could find your email. You just Google your name and you're going to have your contact info. The school's got a website and your email is easy to find on there. So folks, I know that just from when I wanted to make sure I spelled your name right for the show notes. I Googled it and it all popped up. The contact info is easy to get. Why don't you share with us, if you wouldn't mind, some challenges you face as principals and also challenges that your teachers are facing at the front lines. But I think the general public sometimes we just don't get it. But, you're there with it every day. What are some challenges you anticipate in the coming year? And maybe you could share with us how you plan to overcome them, or how we can help you overcome them to the extent the community can help.
Well, I think one challenge has been just the mental, emotional health of children. So that has changed after COVID. We've seen a drastic increase in needs. And so we do have counselors. We're actually hiring, they're advertised for a new counselor. So we'll have a full-time counselor. The district has decided that the junior highs need a full-time counselor. So I'm very appreciative of that.
So when you say counselor, you don't mean a guidance counselor, academics. You're talking about a mental health professional counselor?
Correct.
And y'all are going to hire one. That's a position that wasn't there last year, but will be this year. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. So it was a shared position. So we shared counselors with other schools.
Okay.
And so now they have designated counselors that are full-time on the campuses. We also have a partnership with RKM. So I know there's RKM counselor on campus as well.
So this new counselor is separate from RKM, or?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's great to know. I asked, my wife worked for RKM as one of their counselors, and now she works for the school board directly. And, she just tells me exactly, she echoes what you say, in that it's always been challenging. Kids have always had a full plate of issues and a need for support. But when you look at the last few years, and it's COVID is the big easy thing to talk about, but it's not just that. It's the floods and the economy and just so many things that these kids have gone through. And it's great to hear you, meeting their needs and stepping up. What about your teachers at the teacher level? If you're talking to, say, like a small business person like me who, had the ability to donate where necessary, how can we help you from the community level, either through dollars or volunteerism or just getting the good word out? What's the best way we could help your teachers?
Well, all of those things are great. I think the good word is something that teachers really appreciate. We didn't go into education because we thought we were going to make a lot of money, right? But having that support from the community, because really educators are hardworking and they love children every day. And so entrusting your child to them, I know that is sometimes a challenge. And, we're protective over our children, and which is understandable, but we're there to take care of them, to love on them. We have them for 7 to 8 hours a day. And so we're looking out for them, and if we can partner together, I think that's the biggest thing. So giving the teachers the benefit of the doubt and working with them and approaching them, like if there's an issue, reaching out to the teachers and approaching them about that. I think that's important. But that positive word of mouth, there's not, I think that is the biggest reward, seeing our students grow and then feeling like we've accomplished something. So it's important.
That's a great point. Your colleague here is adding, Charlene Wan, that she would appreciate volunteers to serve on campus during transitions, particularly male mentors. Is it harder to get male volunteers, mentors, role models than female?
Well, schools have been closed really to the outside. So now that we're reopening, I know I've seen different programs where they did have fathers or other community male role models come in and just participate in things like transition. So that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're getting a few more great comments here. Deborah Armstrong says congratulations.
Aww.
Wonderful.
She was my French teacher in high school.
I was about to say she was my French teacher too. I think possibly your brother was in that class with me, even though he was a year ahead. I'll have to get with him and see. I could be wrong, 20 plus years ago, but a great teacher. Miss Armstrong, if you're still watching, you were just one of the best. I really enjoyed your class. 2 years in a row, you just made it special. And I got to share something personal with her. My wife and I don't know if you could see my wife and kids in the background there, but we discovered our oldest boy, Luke, while vacationing in Paris. She actually told me, it was storybook. We're kind of on a balcony overlooking the Eiffel Tower and all that. So anyway, Miss Armstrong, you were my inspiration to want to go to France. Took me 20 years to get there, but I had that beautiful moment, and I got to give you some credit for that. We've got Tana Steve Warden said no Wesley stories on here.
That's my aunt.
Get my boy in trouble. But same person here with another comment I missed. Says, wow, My beautiful, intelligent angel. So proud.
I love
So
you.
that's a good
That's my
one.
mama's sister. I love her. She lives in Arkansas, but
So we have two people watching in Arkansas. She and Mary Beth. Wow.
absolutely.
You taking us across state lines. That's a first. That's exciting. Well, you have been so generous with your time today, and I promised you we wouldn't keep you too long. We have a few more minutes. But before I get into the next line of questions, because I do want to ask you in a moment about your connection to this community, because you could be anywhere in the world with your credentials, with a doctorate in education. You could work anywhere, and I'd love to hear why you wanted to come home. But before I get to that, I mean, what else would you like to share while we're talking junior high, talking about our community? What else would you like to share with us? What is it that we need to know that we might not know?
That's a great question, Parker.
No, I don't put you on spot. If there's nothing, I want to make sure I ask you an open-ended question, that gives you the opportunity so that if you had something like that, but also, you've covered a lot of ground. So I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, I can share about our meet and greet. So,
yeah, please. Thank you.
We are going to be hosting a meet and greet this year, and it's going to be August 9th for 7th grade families, and then August 10th for 8th grade families. So we'll be posting more information.
And that's breaking news here, folks. I don't think that's posted on the school website. That hasn't been on Action News 17 yet. You're getting that for the first time here.
Really excited about meeting the families, about meeting the students. So that's going to be an opportunity for them to meet me and also just kind of become acquainted with the campus.
Yeah, that's so neat. Well, let's talk about the things I kind of alluded to. You started in Ponchatoula, both started your life here growing up, going to school here. But then you go off into the world and you succeed to such a great extent where you get this truly exceptional education. You work at the highest level, both from other parishes, other schools, but all the way up to the college level. I imagine at the point before you come back here to the junior high, you've got a resume that's just full of things that could put you anywhere in the world. I guess the question is kind of why Ponchatoula? What brought you back? Tell us the why there.
Well, I'm starting my 28th year in education. And, like I said, as you enter, the final years of your career, I mean, not very final, but, towards
that's just wild to think. You're such a young woman. You started at 21. The final years maybe of your first career, but wow, that's wild to think you might be nearer the end than the beginning.
You want to leave an impact, and you start thinking about your legacy. And so what better place to do that than my hometown, where my children went to school, where my family's gone to school for generations, where my grandchildren hopefully will go to school. And so it's important to leave an impact on the community. And Ponchatoula has such a great history of excellence, and I just hope to contribute to that and keep that going and really bring that to the next generation.
Yeah, that sounds like exactly the answer we would want to hear when we're interviewing our principal. I mean, you just let us know how much you care, not only about the job and the kids, but this particular community that's done so much for you. So before we go, let me just ask you, what is it you love about the job? You seem to have an enthusiasm for education, for Ponchatoula Junior High in particular, for this job that you're taking on. But what is it that you really love about it?
Well, anyone who knows me knows I truly love children. And so my girls make fun of me because when we go on vacation, they're like, you have to talk to every child that passes by. But, I love being with the kids. I love talking to the kids. They're just so unique, and they're joyful, and I love feeding off of that joy. So like when I have a rough day, I go watch kids interact, talk about math, or playing football outside. So I really enjoy the children. I enjoy working with faculty and staff, and just the commitment. We all have our theme for this year for Tangipahoa Parish School System is one team, one purpose. And just coming together with those like-minded people around children and building our community, building our future, is an important job. And so I really enjoy all the different aspects of it. You asked me what I was afraid of, and probably doing the pirate shuffle at halftime or whenever they did it.
What? That's what, is that a dance you have to do?
Miss Corvetto is going to have to teach me the pirate shuffle.
She had a lot of practice for pirate shuffle leading the pep rallies at PHS all those years, right?
I know. She was fantastic. I loved her.
Well, she lives nearby. You're gonna have to bring earlier. Charlene said, we need volunteers. We got to bring her back as a volunteer as a shuffle instructor.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Hayden, I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing for this community, for sharing your time with us, because I know it's so limited. So thank you for being with us here today. Is there anything else at all you'd like to share before we say goodbye to our viewers and listeners?
Well, thank you, Parker, for having me on. And I just want to impress on everyone just how excited I am. And I'm really looking forward to meeting everyone and working with you and doing the best for our community and for our children.
Thank you so much. So to our viewers, thank you for sticking with us. It's been a great interview, and we'll see you next week. Take care.